Rain hammered against the dome of the makeshift rescue station on the desolate moon. The storm had worsened in the past hour, creating a cacophony that matched the chaos inside. Emergency beacons flashed amber warnings across holographic displays as rescue teams rushed between stations. Chimera 7 had been a disaster, unlike any the Alliance had ever seen. Dr. Lara Velour's orange skin gleamed under the harsh lights as she analyzed the data scrolling before her. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight knot, revealing the sharp points of her ears, a proud mark of her Xylarian heritage. As chief biological engineer of the Alliance, she had been dispatched immediately when the distress call came through. 3 months of investigation, and they were no closer to understanding what had happened during the incident. She rubbed her eyes, feeling the strain of the 18-hour shift. The holographic readout blinked with vital signs of the survivors they'd managed to extract from the facility debris. 27, saved out of a crew of 143. The numbers weighed on her. A commotion at the entrance made her look up. Through the sheet of rain, a figure stumbled toward the station, a human in a damaged lion armor, moving with unsteady determination. The suit was scorched almost beyond recognition, but the insignia on the shoulder was still visible. Lara's breath caught in her throat. She knew that armor. Everyone did. The figure reached the airlock, collapsed against it. Emergency personnel rushed forward, pulling the newcomer inside. As they removed the damaged helmet, Lara felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "Impossible!" she exclaimed, pushing past the medical team. "You should be dead!" Captain Alex Ryder's blonde hair was matted with sweat, his blue eyes unfocused but unmistakably alive. The same Captain Ryder who had been declared dead 3 months ago, whose memorial service she had attended, whose name was etched on the monument back at Alliance headquarters. "They're coming," he gasped, grabbing her wrist with surprising strength. "It wasn't what we thought." His eyes rolled back, and he slumped unconscious onto the stretcher. The medical team immediately pushed forward, rushing him to the emergency bay, leaving Lara frozen in place, staring at her wrist where his fingers had left strange, glowing marks that faded, even as she watched. "Dr. Velour!" Someone was calling her name. She turned to see Commander Hayes, striding toward her, his Earth Alliance uniform pristine, despite the chaos. "What's happening?" "Captain Ryder," she said, her voice hollow with disbelief. "He's alive." Hayes's expression hardened. "That's not possible." "I just saw him with my own eyes." "Then your eyes are deceiving you," Hayes said coldly. "Captain Ryder died when Chimera 7 exploded. We recovered genetic material consistent with his death." "Then perhaps you should examine him yourself," Lara challenged, gesturing toward the medical bay. "Unless you're afraid of what you might find." Hayes's jaw tightened. "Secure him. No one speaks to him until I've been briefed on his condition." He turned on his heel and stalked away, already speaking rapidly into his communicator. Lara frowned, watching him go. Something wasn't right. Hayes should have been shocked, relieved, anything but angry. She made her way to the medical bay, determination hardening with each step. Inside, Dr. Mororo, an elderly human with a reputation for both medical brilliance and intelligence work before joining the Alliance, was already running scans on the unconscious captain. "These readings make no sense," Mororo muttered, not looking up as Lara entered. "His core temperature is 5 degrees above human normal, yet there's no sign of infection or inflammation. And look at this." He pointed to the display showing cellular activity. "His cells are quantum shifting at a rate I've never seen before." Lara leaned closer, studying the readout. "These patterns, they're not human." "No," Mororo agreed. "But they're not Xylarian either, or any other species in our database." As they watched, strange luminescent lines appeared beneath Ryder's skin, tracing patterns along his veins before fading away again. "We need to keep this quiet," Lara said, lowering her voice. "Something's happening with Hayes. He's too interested in Ryder, and not in the way he should be." Maroro nodded, his wrinkled face grave. "I noticed. He's already ordered Ryder to be transported to his ship once stabilized." "We can't let that happen." Lara checked Ryder's vitals again. "Whatever Ryder encountered out there, Hayes knows more than he's telling us." "I've been suspicious for weeks," Maroro admitted. "Restricted areas of the facility I couldn't access. Communications blackouts, personnel transfers without explanation." A commotion outside the bay drew their attention. Through the window, they could see Hayes speaking with his security team, gesturing emphatically in their direction. "We don't have much time," Lara said. "I need to access the Chimera 7 files, the ones they wouldn't share with the investigation team." "Use my access code," Maroro said, scribbling something on a piece of paper. "Echo 79. It's from my intelligence days. They never completely removed my clearance." Lara tucked the paper into her pocket. "What about Ryder?" "I'll keep him stable and delay Hayes as long as I can. If things get bad, I've placed a tracker in Ryder's medical gown. Old habits die hard." The old doctor smiled grimly. "Now go." Lara slipped out through the rear entrance of the medical bay, making her way to the communications center. At this hour, it was minimally staffed. Most personnel were either resting or dealing with the new arrivals from the ongoing rescue operation. She inserted Maroro's code into the terminal. "Access granted" flashed across the screen, and Lara quickly began searching through the classified files. What she found made her blood run cold. 3 days before the Chimera 7 incident, Hayes had met with something called an architect inside Laboratory 3. The security footage showed Hayes kneeling before a strange, triangular energy formation floating in a containment chamber. His face was reverent, almost worshipful. "We've prepared as you instructed," Hayes was saying in the recording. "The subjects are ready for the initial transformation. Ryder's team will be deployed tomorrow." The energy pulsed, forming patterns that resembled language. "Yes," Hayes responded to the unheard communication. "I understand the sacrifice required. Earth Alliance will be rewarded with protection when the harvesters arrive." Lara downloaded the footage to a secure drive, her mind racing. Architects? Harvesters? Transformation? None of this had been in any of the official reports. A notification popped up on her communicator. From Maroro. "Moving Ryder to transport in 10 minutes. She had to act quickly. Lara accessed the station's emergency protocols and activated a distress beacon in the eastern quadrant, triggering alarms throughout the facility. The security teams would be forced to respond to reports of trapped personnel. In the ensuing confusion, she made her way to the maintenance corridors that ran beneath the main facility. These passageways were seldom used, except by engineering staff, providing a direct route to the landing pads where Hayes would be loading Ryder onto his transport. She emerged from a service hatch near the pads, just in time to see Maroro being dragged by 2 security officers toward a military shuttle. The old doctor was putting up an admirable struggle despite his age. "You can't do this," he was shouting. "This is a violation of medical protocol and alliance law." "You're interfering with a military operation, Doctor," one of the officers responded coldly. "Commander Hayes has full authority here." Lara crouched behind a cargo container, assessing the situation. There were too many guards to confront directly. She needed a distraction. A shadow moved beside her, and she nearly cried out before a hand clamped over her mouth. Alex Ryder's blue eyes met hers, alert and focused now. "Don't scream," he whispered, removing his hand. "I'm on your side." "How did you escape? The sedatives don't work on me anymore. Not since—" He gestured vaguely at his body. "The change." Before Lara could respond, Ryder moved with impossible speed, darting between the cargo containers toward the guards holding Maroro. In seconds, both officers were unconscious on the ground, and Ryder was helping the old doctor to his feet. "We need to move," Ryder said as Lara joined them. Hayes is working with the architects. They're using humans as weapons, turning us into something called Vanguard. That matches what I found in the classified files, Lara confirmed. But what are these architects? And why did they target you? Questions later, Moraro interrupted. Right now, we need to get off this moon before Hayes locks down the entire facility. Ryder nodded. The docking bay. There's a Xylarian research vessel scheduled for departure in 15 minutes. They moved quickly through the service corridors, avoiding the main pathways where security would be heaviest. The storm had intensified, providing additional cover as they crossed an exposed section between buildings. There, Lara pointed to the sleek, silver hull of the Xylarian ship. Unlike the bulky, utilitarian designs of Earth Alliance vessels, Xylarian ships were elegant, their aerodynamic curves reminiscent of ancient sea creatures. Can you pilot it? Ryder asked. It's my people's technology. Of course I can. There was pride in Lara's voice as she led them toward the boarding ramp. The ship's interior was minimalist, clean lines and soft blue lighting that responded to their presence, brightening as they entered the cockpit. Where to? Lara asked, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Helios cluster, Ryder said without hesitation. It's where the architects first made contact with humanity. We need to warn them about the harvesters. The harvesters? Moraro asked. They're coming to collect. Ryder's face darkened. That's what the architects told Hayes. They're preparing us, preparing Earth for the harvest. Lara initiated the launch sequence, her mind racing. But what happened to you? How did you survive the explosion at Chimera 7? Ryder stared at his hands, where faint, luminescent lines were beginning to appear beneath his skin again. I didn't. Not really. An anomaly ripped me apart at the molecular level. But instead of dying, I was reconstructed, enhanced at the cellular level. I'm the first prototype. Prototype of what? Moraro asked. The Vanguard. Living weapons designed to fight the harvesters. Ryder looked up, his eyes haunted. But Hayes betrayed us. He's not using the Vanguard to protect humanity. He's offering us as a sacrifice to the architects in exchange for his own survival. The ship's engines hummed to life as Lara received clearance for departure. On the external monitors, they could see security forces streaming toward the docking bay, Hayes at the lead. Too late, Lara smiled grimly as the ship lifted off. We're already gone. The ship shot into the atmosphere, leaving the storm and the chaos of the rescue station behind. As they broke orbit, Lara engaged the hyperspace drive. The stars stretched into lines of light around them, and the ship plunged into the swirling tunnel of compressed space-time. How long to Helios cluster? Ryder asked. 6 hours, Lara replied. You should rest. You look. She hesitated. Like death warmed over? He attempted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Something like that. She gestured to the medical chair at the rear of the cockpit. Sit. Let me monitor your condition. Moraro joined her as she began scanning Ryder's vital signs. The luminescent lines beneath his skin were becoming more pronounced, tracing intricate patterns along his arms and chest. Have you seen anything like this before? Moraro asked quietly. Lara shook her head. Never. His cellular structure is reconfiguring itself in real time. It's like watching evolution happen in seconds, rather than millennia. It happens when I'm stressed, Ryder explained, watching the patterns himself with a mixture of fascination and revulsion. Or when I need to. Perform. Perform? Lara asked. Fight. Move quickly. Access information. He tapped his temple. I can connect to systems now. Electronic, biological. It's how I knew Hayes was coming for me. You can read minds? Moraro looked alarmed. Not exactly. It's more like sensing electrical impulses, intentions rather than thoughts. Ryder closed his eyes. It's exhausting. As if to prove his point, The patterns beneath his skin began to fade, his breathing becoming more regular. Lara continued monitoring him as he drifted into sleep. "What do you make of all this?" Maroro asked, moving away from the chair to speak privately. "I'm not sure," Lara admitted. "But if these architects are manipulating both humans, and whatever these harvesters are, we're caught in the middle of something far bigger than an industrial accident. And Ryder, can we trust him?" Lara looked back at the sleeping captain. "I don't think we have a choice." The journey through hyperspace was mercifully uneventful, giving them time to prepare. Ryder experienced what he called a biological acceleration during the trip, a period where the patterns beneath his skin disappeared completely, and his cells stabilized into a more recognizably human configuration. "It comes and goes," he explained as Lara examined him. "Sometimes I feel almost normal. Other times—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. They had all seen the recordings from the medical bay, when he'd briefly gone into convulsions, his entire body glowing with internal light. "We're approaching Helios Cluster," Lara announced as the ship's computer began the deceleration sequence. The swirling vortex of hyperspace gave way to normal space, revealing their destination. What they saw made them all freeze in horror. The Helios Cluster Outpost, a massive Xylarian research station that orbited the system's central star, was in ruins. Debris floated in a wide field around what remained of the main structure. Several Xylarian vessels drifted among the wreckage, their elegant forms twisted and torn. "Scan for life signs," Lara ordered the ship's computer, her voice tight with shock. "Multiple life signs detected in the central hub," the computer reported. "Warning, unknown energy signatures also present." "When did this happen?" Maroro asked. "Based on the debris pattern and energy decay," Lara studied the readouts. "Approximately 48 hours ago." Ryder stood at the viewport, his expression grim. "This is not a battle. It's a slaughter." He turned to Lara. "We need to dock and find survivors. They might know what we're dealing with." Lara guided the ship carefully through the debris field, approaching what remained of the station's docking ring. Several ports were still intact, though the surrounding structure showed signs of massive trauma. "What could do this to a Xylarian station?" Maroro wondered aloud. "Your technology is centuries ahead of Earth Alliance." "Nothing I'm familiar with," Lara replied, her voice hollow. "The outer hull is molecularly bonded tritanium. It should be virtually indestructible." The docking procedure was tense, the ship's computer struggling to establish a connection with the damaged station systems. Eventually, a green light indicated a successful seal. "We should arm ourselves," Ryder suggested. "We don't know what's waiting for us in there." Lara nodded, accessing a compartment beneath the control panel. She removed 3 Xylarian pulse weapons, sleek devices that fit comfortably in the palm. "These are non-lethal, but will incapacitate most known species." "Most known species," Ryder repeated with a grim smile. "That's reassuring." They cycled through the airlock cautiously. The station's interior was dark, emergency lighting casting long shadows down curved corridors. The air was thin but breathable, life support systems operating at minimal capacity. "Central hub is this way," Lara indicated, leading them through the maze-like passageways. She had visited the station several times before, conducting joint research projects between Xylarian and human scientists. As they approached the hub, they heard voices, tense, frightened, speaking in the musical language of the Xylarians. "Let me go first," Lara said. "They'll recognize me." She stepped into the central chamber, hands raised to show she wasn't a threat. "I am Dr. Lara Velour, Chief Biological Engineer of the Alliance," she called out in Xylarian. "We've come to help." For a moment, there was silence. Then, from behind makeshift barricades constructed from station equipment, 5 Xylarian figures emerged, weapons trained on her. "Lara," one of them stepped forward, recognition dawning. "How did you get here?" "TK?" Lara recognized the station's security chief. "What happened here?" Before he could answer, Ryder and Moraro entered the chamber behind her. Immediately, all weapons swung toward them.
Humans! TK snarled. Keep them back!
They're with me, Lara said quickly. They're not a threat. All humans are threats now, another Xylarian said bitterly. All humans are Vanguard. Ryder tensed, the patterns beneath his skin beginning to glow faintly. Not all of us. Some of us are fighting back. TK studied him, his yellow eyes narrowing. You're different. Your energy signature. He gestured to another Xylarian. Dr. Neris, scan him. A female Xylarian approached cautiously, holding a device that emitted a soft blue light. As it passed over Ryder, the display flickered rapidly. He's been altered, Neris confirmed, but not like the others. His pattern is stable. What others? Ryder asked. What happened here? TK gestured for them to follow him deeper into the hub. On a large display screen, he pulled up security footage from 2 days earlier. The images showed humans in Earth Alliance uniforms boarding the station. But these weren't ordinary humans. Their skin was modeled with the same luminescent patterns Ryder exhibited, though more chaotic, more aggressive. They came without warning, TK explained. No communication, no demands. They just started harvesting. The footage showed the altered humans tearing through station defenses with impossible strength and speed. Where they touched Xylarian technology, it seemed to corrode and transform. They're extracting data, Neris explained. And materials. Specifically, our quantum communication arrays and biological samples. Hayes, Ryder growled. He's using the Vanguard as surgical extractors. A proximity alarm blared suddenly, causing everyone to tense. Another ship is approaching, TK reported, checking a damaged console. Earth Alliance cruiser. Ryder's expression darkened. Hayes? He must have tracked us somehow. Not somehow, Moraro admitted. The tracker I placed on you. He must have detected it despite my precautions. We need to get out of here, Lara said urgently. Too late, TK responded, pointing to the external cameras. The Earth Alliance cruiser was already deploying smaller craft, assault shuttles designed for boarding operations. They've established a containment field around the station. No ships can leave. Ryder paced, the patterns beneath his skin pulsing more rapidly. We need to warn the Alliance, the real Alliance, not Hayes' corrupted version. Show them what's happening. How? Lara asked. We're trapped here. Neris stepped forward hesitantly. There might be a way. We've been studying something since the attack. She led them to a sealed laboratory adjacent to the hub. Inside, floating in a containment field, were several triangular devices, each about the size of a human hand. We found these after the Vanguard left, she explained. They were using them to coordinate their extraction efforts. Ryder approached the devices, his eyes widening. I recognize these. They're architect technology. He reached toward the containment field. Don't, Neris warned. They react violently to direct contact. Not to me, Ryder said quietly. He passed his hand through the field, touching one of the triangular objects. Immediately, the patterns beneath his skin flared brilliantly, matching the geometric designs on the device. They're not just tools. They're alive, semi-conscious. What are they doing here? Lara asked. They're data extractors. Ryder's voice had become distant, as if he were listening to something they couldn't hear. And beacons. The Vanguard left them to continue gathering information for the harvesters. Can you disable them? TK asked. A slow smile spread across Ryder's face. Better than that. I can reprogram them. Use Hayes' own tools against him. Before they could discuss further, the station shuddered violently. Alarms blared throughout the hub. They're cutting through the outer hull, TK reported. Sector 7. They'll be inside within minutes. I need time, Ryder said urgently. These devices can broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. We can expose Hayes's entire operation to every ship in the sector.
How long? Lara asked.
10 minutes, maybe less.
Lara nodded to TK.
We'll hold them off. You work on the devices. TK distributed weapons to his team, while Moraro and Neris stayed with Ryder. Lara took position near the laboratory entrance, her pulse weapon set to maximum. The first breach came exactly where TK had predicted. They heard the screech of tearing metal, followed by the heavy footsteps of boarding troops. Through the security feeds, they watched as figures in Earth Alliance armor poured into the station. But their movements were wrong, too fluid and predatory to be human. Vanguard, TK confirmed grimly. At least 20 of them. They could hear the Vanguard methodically searching the station, moving from section to section with terrifying efficiency. It wouldn't be long before they reached the hub. Inside the laboratory, Ryder worked feverishly with the triangular devices, his hands moving across their surfaces as if playing some strange instrument. The patterns beneath his skin had spread, covering most of his visible body now, pulsing in time with the devices.
How's it coming?
Lara called, not taking her eyes off the corridor.
Almost there,
Ryder replied, his voice strained.
These aren't just communication tools. They're consciousness seeds, primitive AI meant to evolve based on what they learn.
Consciousness seeds? Moraro asked. For what purpose?
To prepare for the harvesters. They don't just take resources, they absorb entire civilizations, their knowledge, their consciousness.
Ryder's hands stilled suddenly. It's done. When I activate them, they'll broadcast everything. Hayes's meetings with the architects, the creation of the Vanguard, the true purpose of Chimera 7. Every ship in range will receive the data. The station shuddered again. More violently this time. The security feed showed the Vanguard had reached the outer doors of the hub, using some kind of energy tool to cut through.
Do it now! TK shouted.
Ryder pressed his palms against all 3 triangular devices simultaneously. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The patterns beneath his skin flared with blinding intensity, matched by the devices themselves. A high-pitched tone filled the air, rising in frequency until it was almost beyond hearing. On the external monitors, they could see the effect rippling outward from the station in visible waves of energy, like ripples in a pond. Every communication system on the station activated at once, screens filling with images from the classified files Lara had stolen, Hayes kneeling before the architect, the creation of the Vanguard, the true purpose of Chimera 7. Through the laboratory window, they could see the Vanguard faltering. The luminescent patterns on their exposed skin flared chaotically, then began to dim. Several dropped to their knees, clutching their heads.
It's working, Lara breathed. The broadcast is disrupting their connection to the architects.
But even as she spoke, Ryder collapsed, his body convulsing. The patterns beneath his skin were fading rapidly, his cellular structure destabilizing.
Alex!
Lara rushed to his side.
What's happening?
Used too much energy, he gasped. Breaking the connection. Breaking me too. Neris scanned him quickly. His cellular cohesion is failing. The quantum bonds are breaking down.
How do we stop it?
Lara demanded. We need to stabilize the quantum fluctuations, Neris replied. But I don't have the equipment. Use this. Moraro pulled a medical injector from his pocket. Xylarian stimulants. They might force his cells to establish a new equilibrium. Lara took the injector, meeting Ryder's eyes.
This might kill you.
He managed a weak smile. I'm already dead, remember? She pressed the injector against his neck. The effect was immediate. Ryder's back arched, his eyes widening as the stimulant flooded his system. For a terrible moment, Lara thought they'd lost him. Then, gradually, the chaotic patterns beneath his skin began to stabilize, forming more regular, rhythmic pulses. It's working, Neris confirmed, monitoring his vitals.
His cellular structure is re-establishing itself.
Outside, The situation had changed dramatically. The Vanguard forces were in full retreat, many of them barely able to walk. Through the station's external cameras, they could see Hayes's cruiser breaking orbit, accelerating away from the scene. "He's running," TK said with grim satisfaction. "The coward knows he's been exposed." Communications channels suddenly burst to life as Xylarian and Earth Alliance vessels began responding to the broadcast. Within hours, the first rescue ships arrived, a joint task force of both species, working together to secure the station and evacuate survivors. Lara and Alex were transferred to an orbital medical facility, where they spent the next several days recuperating while debriefing Alliance officials about everything they had discovered. The triangular devices had broadcast Hayes's treachery across half the sector, triggering immediate investigations at the highest levels of both governments. Hayes himself had vanished, but not before several of his co-conspirators were arrested. The evidence was damning. Records of secret meetings, experimental protocols for the Vanguard program, communications with the mysterious architects. 6 weeks later, Lara stood before the Alliance Council in her new capacity as Strategic Defense Envoy. Beside her, Alex Ryder, now officially recognized as the Alliance's Architect Interface Specialist, presented their findings. "The threat isn't over," he explained to the assembled dignitaries. "Hayes was just one pawn in a larger game. The architects have been manipulating both our species for decades, preparing us for the harvesters." "And what exactly are these harvesters?" asked the Earth Alliance president. "Think of them as cosmic recyclers," Ryder replied. "They don't just destroy civilizations. They absorb them, repurpose them. The architects offered Hayes protection by turning humans into weapons, the Vanguard. But it was a lie. We were never meant to fight the harvesters. We were being prepared as sacrifices." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "What do you propose?" asked the Xylarian Confederation elder. Lara stepped forward. "We've established the Architect Task Force, a joint initiative to track down remaining Architect technology and prepare real defenses against the harvesters. With Captain Ryder's unique abilities, we can interface with their systems, understand their weaknesses." "And when will these harvesters arrive?" someone called out. Ryder and Lara exchanged glances. "We don't know," Ryder admitted. "But the architects have been preparing for centuries. We need to be ready." The debate continued for hours, but eventually, the Council approved their proposal. The Architect Task Force would receive full funding and authority to operate across both Xylarian and human territories. Later, as they stood in the observation lounge overlooking the glittering expanse of the galaxy, Lara turned to Alex. "How are you feeling?" she asked quietly. He flexed his hand, where faint, luminescent lines still occasionally appeared beneath his skin. "More human than I was. The treatments are working." He smiled at her. "Thanks to you." "We make a good team," she said, returning his smile. "More than a team. I hope." He reached out, taking her hand in his. As their fingers intertwined, the patterns beneath his skin pulsed gently, synchronized with her heartbeat. "The Xylarian Ethics Committee would have something to say about that," she teased, but didn't pull away. "Let them talk." He drew her closer. "We've faced worse." Outside the viewport, the stars shimmered against the velvet darkness of space. Somewhere out there, the harvesters were coming. But for now, in this moment, they had won a victory, not just against Hayes and the architects, but against the divisions that had separated their species for too long. Alex leaned down, pressing his lips gently against hers. As they kissed, the luminescent patterns beneath his skin glowed softly, a visible symbol of the connection that transcended biology, culture, and even species. Together, they would face whatever came next,